Do you really think I was the worst player that Urban Meyer has ever dealt with? Your words, not mine.
You're lying, Paul. Wasn't just a clapback, it was a wake-up call. Cam Newton has heard it all. Cocky, overrated, problematic, not a winner. He's been labeled everything except what he actually is, a champion, a generational athlete, and one of the most electrifying quarterbacks the game has ever seen.
I really appreciate what you have been for the multitude of fans.
Like the video, subscribe if you love truth over narratives, where football meets reality. Let's talk, but now, in 2025, something is different. Cam isn't just clapping back at critics. He's tearing down the walls of a system that was never built for him to win in the first place. And it all came to a boiling point when Paul Finebaum, the mouthpiece of the old guard, the so-called gatekeeper of college football, crossed the line again. He didn't critique a stat. He didn't debate a game. He said Cam Newton was the worst player Urban Meyer ever coached.
Meyer, he'll be happy to tell you that Cam Newton, because he told me, is the worst guy he has ever dealt with in his college career now.
Urban Meyer coached Aaron Hernandez. He coached players involved in academic fraud, domestic abuse allegations, and locker room scandals that shook entire programs. But Cam, a Heisman winner, national champion, NFL MVP, is the worst? That's not just ridiculous. That's not just disrespectful. That's coded. That's targeted. That's personal. Let's not act brand new. Paul Finebaum has a history. Deion Sanders speaks about the chaos of NIL and suggests a solution. Paul doesn't engage in the message. He attacks the man. Cam Newton bets on himself, transfers to a JUCO to resurrect his career, wins everything in sight, and still Finebaum tries to define him by a stolen laptop from 15 years ago. And when Lamar Jackson put up video game numbers in college, what did Paul say? He's not an NFL quarterback. When Jameis Winston entered the league, he's untouchable. When Deion took over at Colorado, he's a distraction. It's always the same pattern. When black men lead, Finebaum criticizes. When they dominate, he discredits. But this time, Cam didn't just take the hit, he hit back. Those were Cam Newton's exact words on his podcast 4th and 1, a calm, direct rebuttal to a decades-long smear campaign. You're lying, Paul. Please stop. No yelling, no antics, just clarity. Because the truth is, Cam wasn't kicked out of Florida. He transferred. Period. Tim Tebow was the chosen one. Urban Meyer had no plans to give Cam the reins, no matter how talented he was. So Cam did what competitors do. He went somewhere he could compete. He dominated at Blinn College, then turned Auburn into a one-man army. He didn't just win the Heisman, he torched SEC defenses and brought home a national title in a single season. But somehow, Paul Finebaum wants to twist that into selfishness. Paul claims Cam almost cost Auburn the championship because he dove into the end zone instead of taking a knee. Really? That wasn't recklessness. That was a team decision. A moment of trust. They had a timeout. They had control. They won the title. But instead of celebrating that moment, Paul reframes it not as triumph, but as arrogance. Why? Because Cam didn't conform, because he didn't play the role of the quiet, obedient quarterback. He danced, he smiled, he led, and he refused to shrink himself. And in sports media, especially the old Southern-rooted SEC media machine Paul Finebaum represents, that kind of confidence is threatening. The double standard. Let's talk about hypocrisy. Nick Saban yells at his players, rants at pressers, and calls out fellow coaches. Paul says he's a passionate leader. Tim Tebow talks about his faith, cries on the podium, makes bold proclamations. He's inspirational. Dabo Swinney complains about NIL and locker room culture. Paul nods in agreement. But when Deion Sanders, a Hall of Famer and current head coach, makes the exact same arguments, Paul calls him a hypocrite. When Cam Newton walks with confidence, suddenly it's selfishness. What changed? Not the message. The messenger. Let's not forget the receipts. Cam Newton is a Heisman Trophy winner, a national champion, an NFL MVP, a Super Bowl quarterback, the face of one of the most exciting eras in Panthers history, and he did it all without the media's permission. He didn't wait for approval. He didn't fake humility. He didn't play the quiet, grateful role that black quarterbacks are so often assigned, and the establishment never forgave him for that. Here's the truth. Cam Newton is the media now. He has his own platform. His his own brand, his own audience. And that's exactly what terrifies people like Paul Finebaum. Because Cam doesn't need ESPN. He doesn't need validation. He doesn't need a seat at the table. He built his own. When Cam called Paul a liar, he wasn't just defending himself. He was exposing the playbook. 1. Discredit the black athlete. 2. Distort their accomplishments. 3. Dismantle their influence. And when that doesn't work, label them controversial. This isn't just about Cam, or Deion, or Jameis, or Lamar. It's about a system that's always struggled with black excellence that speaks for itself. Because in 2025, black quarterbacks are dominating the league. From Jalen Hurts to Lamar Jackson to CeCe Stroud to Shedeur Sanders, rising fast in Cleveland. And what do they all have in common? They lead on their own terms. They represent a new generation that won't stay silent. They aren't here to be managed, they're here to lead. And for some in the media, especially those who've built entire careers protecting tradition, that's terrifying. Deion Sanders, the same pattern Coach Prime, is the latest target. He suggests a salary cap for NIL to bring balance and protect young athletes from exploitation. Paul skips the argument entirely and goes straight for the insult. Deion's a hypocrite, he's in over his head, he's hurting the game. But when Nick Saban made the same comments, Paul said it was a much-needed perspective. It's not about NIL, it's about control. Who gets to shape the conversation? Who gets to be heard? And when it's a powerful black man speaking with clarity and conviction, Paul Finebaum reaches for the oldest tools in the box: dismissal, distortion, and discrediting. Cam didn't just fire back to protect his name. He fired back to protect the truth, because the media has tried to paint him with the same brush for over a decade. Too flashy, too arrogant, too selfish. But here's what the record says. He transferred when it made football sense. He dominated at every level. He didn't run from the spotlight. He earned it, and when the lights got brightest, he shined without apology. The thing about legacy, it's not up for debate anymore. Cam Newton isn't just a footnote, he's a blueprint for every kid who's told to wait their turn, be quiet, stay in line. He proved that you can bet on yourself. You can own your voice. You can win without begging for validation. And now, in 2025, as he controls his own narrative through podcasts, appearances, and athlete mentorship, Cam has one final message for the old guard. You don't get to write my story anymore. You're lying, Paul. Please stop. That line wasn't just a mic drop. It was a warning to every media figure who thinks they can bury truth beneath opinion. The mic belongs to Cam now, and he's not handing it back. Like the video, subscribe, and next time someone tries to rewrite the legacy of greatness, you already know what to say. You're lying, Paul.